This is Woof. Woof is a source port developed primarily by Fabian, Greffrath and Associates that was first released around late 2019. It was initially started to get another source port, WinMBF, working and more accessible on modern operating systems, including 64-bit hardware. WinMBF itself was a Windows version of the DOS source port MBF, which most people in the Doom community nowadays usually recognize as comp level 11 in PrBoom+. Woof's ambitions were very simple at first: port WinMBF to modern operating systems and get it running good. It wasn't even released as Woof initially. At first, it was simply called WinMBF 64. Of course, the port ended up running as fluently as the 64-bit version of WinMBF could. That wasn't the end of it, however. The code was also ported to SDL2, which allows the game to be rendered with hardware acceleration. In many cases, this essentially means that you can have the processing power of a hardware graphics renderer like OpenGL without having to sacrifice the software aesthetic. A lot of things are going on in the background involving SDL as well, which might not be noticed by most people except the die-hard coders that put together ports like these, but by goodness are they still integral to the port nonetheless to make it run as slick as it does. Extra bits were gradually added to the port over time. The option for uncapped frame rates and widescreen were some notable additions. Eventually, the assets made for widescreen ports were made usable as well, just as they are usable now in PrBoom. In fact, a lot of features from PrBoom were integrated into this port as well. Colored Blood was an extra early addition, and not only that, for gameplay reasons it didn't include Lost Souls and Spectres in this option. Take that as you wish, but some players really appreciate the more obvious kind of visual feedback when attacking those enemies. Certain other features like extra parameters have been added. The option to pistol start every level was one of them. In addition, by default, you can use the WASD control scheme from installing the port right from the get-go. You can even use the in-game menu to change keys on the fly if you're an ESDF player or using another similar setup. More little bits like secret notifications were added to keep the port up to date with the other ones, and eventually Woof, like PrBoom+, started to support the comp level parameters as well. The comp levels are very streamlined nowadays. In addition to the numbers you can memorize, comp level vanilla also runs 2, 3, or 4 by means of detecting which IWAs you use to run Woof with in your launcher option of choice. Boom and MBF, comp levels 9 and 11 respectively, are also supported, and of course the latter would be, seeing as this project started as a WinMBF port. But that isn't all. This year, several developers managed to get together and establish a new comp level that Woof supports, MBF 21. MBF 21, Modder's best friend as it is called, is intended to be an evolution of comp level 11, fixing certain issues with the compatibility mode, like 3 key doors being unusable depending on you grabbing the wrong type of key, and better generalized line and crusher control. New weapon and actor flags were added as well. Certain things that were once hard-coded like splash damage immunity and boss step triggers are now changeable. Infighting mechanics are now changeable as well. Monsters can be put into infighting groups, projectile groups, and splash groups. This example here makes imp projectiles damage other imps, resulting in imp infighting. Barons and Arachnotrons are in the same projectile group, so they won't damage each other. Barons and Hell Knights are not in the same projectile group, so they will damage and infight each other. And Imps and Barrels are in the same splash group, so Barrels won't harm Imps. A lot of things can be mixed around to make very different results depending on what you want to do with your map and whatnot. In addition to all this, some extra actor and weapon flags are now available to emulate other Doom engine games to an extent. This is why the Heretic Invades Doom mod is capable of working the way it does. Dehack support was also initially raised with Dehextra, then essentially uncapped with DSD hacked. So this now means until you run out of memory, you can add a lot more dehacked entities without overwriting old enemies or props. What this will result in is going to be very interesting. On top of this, UMAP info support was added as well, making the support very up to par with DSDA-Doom's current iterations and even going a bit beyond the UMAP info fork of PrBoom+ nowadays. All these features being added has made Woof one of my new ports of choice, able to run the same levels that PrBoom+ and DSDA-Doom could run, with that delicious, crispy aesthetic. Speaking of aesthetics, at least one fork of Woof has come to light. Nugget Doom is a fork that intends to add even more features from PrBoom, like the minimalistic HUD, and even added some of its own features like extra jibbing with the chainsaw and SSG if that's your kind of thing. Progress on all these ports is exciting to see, and certain other features like a co-op spawn parameter are to be added to Woof as well. I hope this brief introduction to Woof was informative enough. I'd like to give my gratitude to Fabian and Arfoman for starting this port and taking it to the next level with all these ambitious additions. Also, a shout out to Alex as well for making Nugget Doom and taking Woof a little bit further in the crispy aesthetic. I'd also like to thank Greffrath for being a driving force behind DSDA-Doom and MBF 21 with several other members of the Doom community who I also give my gratitude to. If you want to see how WinMBF functioned back in the day and by extension how certain early builds of Woof handle it, check out the source port Pooch by Gibs as well. I can basically describe it as the chocolate Doom of WinMBF, if that makes any sense. That'll be it for this video. I'll try to keep you updated on the development of Woof and his sister ports, though you can always inquire about them in their GitHub pages or Doom World threads. Special thanks to my Ko-fi, Patreon, and YouTube members who include the following, and a special thanks to Beaks Make Me Coom and Christophine Place for being top tier supporters. Check out the links in the description if you want to support me that way as well. Thanks for watching, and until next time, toodaloo.